Hello, guys. Welcome to Poestry, a smack dab middle between a poem and a story. Before we begin, I would like to ask you to close your eyes and listen to everything you hear. This is called The Climb. A world filled with sadness as you stand only below on the ground. Everywhere you see is white fog, soft at the touch like blankets of moistened feathers. Within the mist are people everywhere in the form of shadows, but on fire. One touch of the fire will burn you, but they don't have the power to kill you. In this world, it is only you who has the power to change everything. There are others, not like you entirely, but similarly stuck in the dark world with shadows. There is no sky because the sky is covered by the leaves of the oak trees that surround everywhere. The world itself is like a gigantic forest, but of sadness, despair, and longing. It is made up of the souls that have to fight their way to their destinations. Some remain, some leave, and some are lost. The only way out of this world into the happier one is by climbing the oak trees. But I, unlike many around me, have never learned to climb. I slowly begin to embrace the sharp bark with points and ends that roughly pierce my skin and send a tightened pain to travel slightly through me. And I use all the force I have to motion myself up. As I use all the force I have to motion myself up, I fall. As I search around me, I notice the world soon begins to burn as well. I see others similar to myself who try to climb the trees but also fall. There are those in this world who have been carried by another to the world above, and that is how most have escaped this world. But there are a few others in myself with no one to have carried us, but only to lend a hand to help guide us above. My heart begins to drum in my chest. Can I help them, those who have fallen? I glance at a girl with long orange hair, brown eyes, and who is rather short. She tries to climb but falls. Instinctively, my legs move on its own and I race toward her. Realizing soon after, I watched as the tree that I had claimed for my own to climb was also being burned down, and one of the fire shadows were smiling, laughing, and mocking. These fire shadows aren't good. They want you to follow in their footsteps, and when you don't, they try to harm you in the worst possible way that they can. Because if you follow them, you remain in this world, but you have all the power you could ever ask for, and you will remain as such forever. But you can never leave this world behind, and you can never be above the trees. But like others, I myself don't want that. I want to soar the skies, to any destination, and go everywhere. You stupid brat. You should have followed me. You're wasting time. Good luck getting out of here now. It laughed. One shadow shot an arrow at me, the one beside the other that was scowling at me. My leg burned, but it wasn't painful enough to make it unmovable. And the thought of my tree burning didn't scare me. There'd be more out there in this wide forest, I'm sure. I didn't turn or look back. I just ran forward because the girl was crying with her palms to her hand. She was frozen still, unable to move. I needed to help her. Trees burned around and fell in my direction, but I leaped over the branches and finally reached her. Once I reached her, she looked at me like a ray of life, of hope. Her eyes glimmered with light, and it made my heart warm. I felt tears of joy form at my eyes. But now wasn't the time to rejoice, not quite yet. We needed to get out of here. I hope lifted her off the ground, but she was the one to have continued to climb. I watched on the ground around us as fiery shadows approached. They would try to make you fall or tear you down, or tear down your tree. With my fists, I fought them off. My skin felt like it was itching with fire. I didn't care. I needed to fight them off to help her. Then I myself will get out of here. The fiery shadows burned everything and began to stop others. Some people who noticed continued to move forward without helping anyone else. They believe everyone else's lives weren't their problems, and I suppose that was okay. To each, we are our own person. The girl was now too high up for them to have reached her, and she mouthed at me, Thank you. I smiled. And now I know it'll be long before I can reach the top, because I won't leave anyone behind. The next person I saw fall was someone larger than myself, so I raced towards them and helped them. After a long while, with much effort to help anyone and everyone I could, I was actually left all alone. I admit that it was a bit disheartening and scary, but there was no other way. And I was still happy. Everyone I managed to help was already climbing on their own. They didn't know how far the top was, but they climbed and were sent on their course. I was in search of a tree to find. Most of the ones I see were burned. As I raced through the forest, I tripped over one of the branches that cut my abdomen. Suddenly, I felt the wave of burning, the fiery electric pain that swallowed me. But I needed to get up. The shadow figures with more arrows were reaching near me. Petty fool, if you only had followed us, you wouldn't be struggling so much, it continued to mock. The worst part about these fiery shadows is that they aren't strangers. They tend to be people you know. Family, some friend, acquaintances. I bit my lip and hauled myself up, motioning ahead and sidekicked the leader to the face. He staggered back. Though the pain burned me deeply, I clenched my fists and teeth. I'm a warrior. My soul continues to fight until I can no longer. They all launched themselves forward, and this time, instead of using their arrows, they grew massive claws and striked forward. And with all my strength, I fought back, even if I got burned or badly injured. I had to keep fighting before I could find my tree and climb it. If it isn't too late, that is.